Tell me, if only for a few months, you found yourself under house arrest without internet, without a phone, what would you do? I would probably have gone crazy, but our main character came up with an interesting activity for himself and started watching the neighbors. Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Fox. Today I will tell you about the movie Paranoia. Cale is a small-town guy. He goes to high school and a dude. There is a cool father with whom he often communicates. One day they were fishing, and when they were returning home, they were overtaken by a pickup truck that blocked Cale's view, and then the pickup truck turned sharply. It happened like this. After the tragedy, Cale's father died. A year has passed since the accident. The guy is sitting in class. He is not doing his homework. The teacher began to present Cale. After these words, Cale's nerves could not stand it. He smashed the teacher's face, and then the trial took place. They wanted to put Cale in jail, but because he lost his father, his sentence was commuted and he was given 3 months of house arrest. A special bracelet was put on the guy's leg. If he leaves the house, the bracelet will flash red, and the cops will come for him. There was nothing to do. Nothing. Cale decided to play a game console, but the authorities turned off the internet, so he took. I was eating and went to watch TV, and then my mom came home from work. She saw a mess in the house. It upset her, and she cut the cable wire to the guy. The hero looks out the window, and then the doorbell rings. When the guy opens the door, he sees it. The teens threw dog shit on the doorstep. He freaked out and ran after them, but the damn bracelet started flashing. The dude rushed back. The neighbors were nearby, and they looked at him like an idiot, despite the fact that Cale. I returned to the territory of the house. A policeman arrived, and it turned out that this guy was the cousin of the teacher, who had recently had his face smashed by Cale. The policeman tied Cale up, and the guy decided to make a fence. He put all sorts of crap at home to understand the border where you can go and where you can't, as you have already seen. New neighbors moved to his house, and the dude found himself a cool entertainment. He looked out the window for a young girl who was peacefully changing clothes at home. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. A friend, Ronald, came to Cale. The guy told him about his new. As it turns out, he is watching not only this girl, but also all the neighbors who live nearby. A couple of hours later, Ronald left, and Cale went outside to pick up the mail. He couldn't get the envelopes from abroad, and the girl helped him. A dialogue began between them, and they got to know each other. Cale started watching the news. They were talking about a serial killer. Cale looks out the window again. He sees Ashley doing yoga, and then she had a fight with Dad. Then the dude went into another room and noticed the neighbor's Mustang, which had a dent, just like it was on the news. And Cale began to suspect that his neighbor was the killer from the TV. The dude called Ronald, and when he came, they started discussing the story. Before the disappearance of this girl, there was a similar precedent. 3 years ago in the fall, some guy dragged 7 girls into his house and then mercilessly killed them. He was never found. After the dialogue, they began to watch the girl, but she disappeared from sight. Then the doorbell rang, and Amber was there. After a short dialogue, they decided to hang out together. Cale's house was a mess. He was ashamed in front of the girl. He tried to clean up, but then he scored. He and Ronald decided to tell Amber about the neighbor, as well as about their theory about the Mustang. Ronald got tired and went to bed, and the guys began to study the details of the murder. And now Cale and Ashley are watching a suspicious neighbor. The neighbor returned home. He brought a young girl with him. They had a good dinner, and then she started dancing a striptease. The neighbor took out a knife. Cale was scared. He wanted to call the police, but everything worked out. The guy just cut the price tag off the dress. Everyone went home, and Cale wanted to kiss the girl, but she said she hadn't brushed her teeth. The guy is watching the neighbor again. He saw the girl screaming, but then he appeared. Cale fell asleep for a couple of hours, and when he woke up, Robert appeared in the house. Cale was scared. The guy took a knife, but Mom came into the house and said that Robert helped her fix the car, and he also asked her out on a date. The guy didn't like it, but he didn't have any evidence that this neighbor was a super murderer. so he went to his room in a great rage. Then Ashley came to him and said she wanted to meet him with the local guys and decided to organize a party. Cale couldn't leave the house, so the only thing he could do was watch from the sidelines. The guy got jealous of the girl and decided to annoy her. He turned on which one? That old song on the iPod at full volume. Ashley went to deal with it. What are you doing? You're ruining my party. You're watching me. Our communication is over. But Cale made a heartfelt speech and the girl melted away. The words touched her heart so much that she found herself in the arms of a guy and they merged in a passionate kiss. It was coming to intercourse. Meanwhile, a neighbor in his house was killing some victim. Blood splatters flew across the window. And then he started dragging something down in a black bag. The guys heard this sound and went to the window to look. There were traces of blood on the package. Cale arranged with a friend to break into a neighbor's car and then stole the key to the garage. The dude went on a mission. And meanwhile Ashley watched Robert in the store. She took pictures to control his movement. Then Robert suddenly disappeared. Ashley did not know where he was. The girl. I ran out to the parking lot and headed for my car. When she went inside, Robert suddenly appeared. He walked up to the car, smiled, and then began to climb inside and took out the keys. It opened and he sat down on the seat and said he didn't like being watched. Later, Robert got out of the car, but the girl's state of shock did not go away. When the guys gathered for a dialogue, Ashley said that she had had enough and she was leaving this topic. The girl insisted that they had no proof, and the neighbor was right. In fact, it was ugly when some crazy teenagers had invaded his life. In short, the cutie has merged. Cale continues to observe the neighbor using a blueprint from the internet. He created a spy camera and then called Ronald and said that there was a secret passage in the neighbor's house. Later, Ronnie came to Cale and said he forgot to pick up Robert's phone. The guy decided to go back for the phone. He took Cale's camera and he entered the house. All the information that Ronald saw was displayed on the TV screen. At Cale's request, the dude climbed into the garage and became looking for a bloody package. Well, you remember which one, and then someone appeared. Apparently it was Ronnie's neighbor, ran with all his might and asked for help. Cale took the bat and went to the house. When he got closer, the bracelet lit up red, and then the cops arrived. Cale told them about Ronnie, but left. Robert said there was no one here. Cale said, guys, check the garage. There's a dead girl in a blue bag. The cops pulled out the package, but what was Cale's surprise when, instead of a corpse, there was a dead deer. The guy returned home. His mother yelled at him very hard. She said that you want to go to prison. Don't be paranoid. Robert is a normal dude. And then, the woman went to his house to apologize. At that moment, Ronnie appeared on Cale's TV. He was unconscious, and it said that I was in the closet. He opened the door. Actually, Ronnie was joking. He came out of the house next door, and he didn't touch him. Cale didn't appreciate the joke. Cale's mom was talking to Robert while Cale studied the recording that Ronnie had made, and what he found on it, the girl's corpse, just in a secret passage that is not in the drawing of the house. Cale's mother was going to leave Robert, but he didn't. He let her. The man beat her badly, and the woman lost consciousness. Then a neighbor came into Cale's house. Ronnie was knocked out, and later he attacked the guy himself. Robert began to strangle. Cale was hit with a bat, but he actively resisted. The guy broke free and hit his neighbor on the head with a chair, but the grandfather turned out to be strong. He pulled Cale out into the street, hit him, and the guy lost consciousness. Then Robert tied up the guy and dragged him into the house. He said he wouldn't want to kill them at all if they left him alone and didn't start looking for that girl in the bag. Everything would be fine. Cale was on the verge of death, but Ashley came into the house. She saw all this and grabbed Robert in the eyes. Somehow, the guys managed to escape. Cale wanted the bracelet to flash red. He and Ashley climbed out of the window and ran across the roofs of houses, and then jumped into the pool. Everything worked out. The cops should arrive, but it's not known when it will be. Cale decided To go to the neighbor's house and save his mother, he broke the glass in the yard with garden tongs, and then went inside. The guy was looking for a secret passage, and when he entered it, he saw it. There was the corpse of a girl that Robert had recently killed, and the corpse of a deer was just a disguise for the cops. A policeman arrived. He took out a gun and went for a search, but Robert, meanwhile, appeared behind him. Meanwhile, Cale fell through the floor in the basement. There was a pile of corpses. Judging by the condition, they had been there for a very long time. Cale got out and saw that Robert had captured his mother. Robert pushed her against Cale and began to beat the guy himself. When he put a knife to the guy's neck, the mother stuck an awl in Robert's leg. Robert screamed and Cale took advantage of the moment and stuck Robert with garden shears and killed Robert. The Juvenile Affairs Commission did not put Cale in jail because Robert was a murderer. The guy was released from house arrest, and he started a meat life with Ash.